Hello gamers, Yoshi here, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about exactly what God roles are, how you can determine if something is God rolled, and how to find God roles. This video can help you understand the exact terminology of God roll within Destiny 2 and how to use Light.gg's God roll finding tools. What is a God roll? Well, a God roll is a weapon that has all the best perks in all the categories on it. This means that the barrel or sight, the magazine, perk 1 and 2, and the masterwork are all the best perks available on that gun. Typically, God rolls have perk combinations universally deemed by players as being the best of the best, but the term God roll can also be used loosely by other players to describe their own unique perk combinations that work well for them. Your own and others' personal definitions of what God roll weapons are may be confusing, but just know that when someone talks about having a God roll weapon, they are typically speaking of having all the best and optimal perks on their gun for either PvE or PvP play. God rolls are also a compounding factor on top of meta weapons. So for what is currently being used, which is the meta of Destiny 2, you would also want to be using God roll versions of those meta weapons. You should aim to pick the best weapons and get the best possible perk combinations on those weapons in order to make yourself the most deadly in both PvP and PvE content. How can I determine what a god roll is? Typically in Destiny 2, after all the sandbox changes, players will always be looking to do the most amount of damage with the least amount of effort. I know it sounds lazy when you say it out loud, but it's true. Why do you want to be killing an ad in 5 shots when you could be killing it in 1 shot? The best way to visualize perks on weapons to find out what god roll variants would be is to use light.gg, which you can currently see I have open. Light.gg has a multitude of god roll finding tools for you to use. At the top left hand side of the screen, excuse me, you're gonna notice this little tab called God Rolls, and you're gonna notice that there are 3 separate tabs called God Roll Hub, the God Roll Finder, and the Roll Appraiser. And I also recommend that you sign into your Bungie account. Doesn't matter if you have Xbox, PC, PS4, Stadia, whatever it is, just sign in on LightGG. And what this does is that LightGG is going to load up your character inventory so that when we go hunting for god rolls, LightGG can appraise your rolls and can also tell you if you have any of the god rolls you're currently hunting for in your inventory. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the God Roll Hub. So let's click on the God Roll Hub and it's going to do its thing and it's going to load up. And here you can see the God Roll Hub, which tells you what is meta, excluding exotics, of course, and it also shows you the meta of the past 2 weeks of the current sandbox. It will also tell you the most common perks that are used by players, the least common perks, and the most common weapon types and the least common weapon types. And the reason you're going to want to use the hub is this allows you to kind of determine what the meta is of Destiny, at least a very general, um, like a broad view. This is not exactly what everyone is using because there are some guns here that I don't use personally. There are other guns I do use that I don't see on this list, but this is what the general population is using in the last 2 weeks. So you're going to want to form your god rolls at least off of some of these guns. And as you can see, we can scroll down. You can see all the neat little charts and the statistics. It's a pretty cool setup. So let's move on to the God Roll Finder. It's going to load up and do its thing. It's a little glitchy, but you just got to let it do its thing. I have previously used that, but I'm going to remove those filters. All right, here is the God Roll Finder, and this will allow you to search up possible perk combinations for weapons, allowing you to search for specific setups that suit your needs. So this is how you use the God Rule Finder if you are not familiar with the user interface. So on the left-hand side, we have all the weapons and weapon types in the game, and currently they're all selected, but we don't want that right now. We're gonna look for an auto rifle. to create as an example for finding a god roll auto rifle. So we're going to select the auto rifle and we're going to see here in the trait list, this is all the traits that auto rifles can currently roll with. It's not going to be that every auto rifle can roll with ambitious assassin. It's just that of all the existing auto rifles, at least one of them can roll with ambitious assassin. So let's do Rampage as our first perk, because Rampage allows us to get a lot of damage off on enemies, so it allows us to get a lot of kills for the least amount of effort. Remember, we're going to want to craft a god roll that allows us to get a lot of kills for the least amount of effort. So we're going to do Rampage here. We're going to search in the search bar and select Rampage. Whoops, I tried dragging it there. Rampage in group 1. And you're going to notice on the right hand side of your screen in under possible roles that a bunch of stuff is going to appear. And what the God Roll Finder tells you is it tells you the weapon name, what slot the weapon is in, the energy type of the weapon rarity, infusion cap, and which trait slot the perk you are looking for is in. And the reason I mentioned this last one is that Rampage here is in this perk slot. If we search up something like Kill Clip, but Kill Clip happens to be in the same perk slot as Rampage, this just means that you can't have both Kill Clip and Rampage on an age-old bond. Uh, that's hypothetically if age-old bond could do that. Um, and that you would have to search for another gun that had Kill Clip in its other slot so you could get a Kill Clip Rampage auto rifle. So you're also going to notice that here are your roles, and since I've signed in, if you haven't signed in, you won't be able to see anything, but I've signed in, so my inventory is loaded, and it's telling me I have a false promises with Rampage inside my vault um, as one of the perks that I've currently searched for. So the Your Roles tab allows you to see any god roles that you are hunting for if you already have them or not. So let's go back to possible roles and let's add another perk to narrow down our search so we can craft a better god roll than just having Rampage. Let's do Subsistence. And if you don't know what Subsistence is a perk that allows you to reload your magazine or reload a portion of your magazine after getting a kill. And the negative side of Subsistence is that it negatively impacts your reserve ammo. However, auto rifles have a lot of ammo, so subsistence doesn't impact the reserves of auto rifles too heavily as it does to other weapon types. So subsistence is going to allow us to get constantly be shooting and constantly have rampage up at the same time. So we're going to click on it, and what you notice here is I haven't created another perk group. So what this means by having it in group 1 here is that it's going to look for weapons that have rampage and subsistence in that perk 1 slot. So we'll show you all of the guns that can roll subsistence and rampage, but it won't filter out the ones where, say, subsistence can roll on the rampage slot. So if you want to get filter those out, what you're going to do is you're going to add a perk group, and then you can move subsistence over to group 2, and now you can see all the guns that roll subsistence and rampage in separate perk slots. So we only have two guns here. We have false promises and gnawing hunger. And if I look for my rolls, I don't have any rolls like that. Um, that's just a personal preference. I don't really like using auto rifles, so I don't have this auto rifle god roll on me. But it's up to you if you guys want to use these weapons or not. Lastly, we have the God Roll Appraiser. So we're going to go to that. So we're going to go up to the God Rolls and go to the Roll Appraiser. It's going to do its thing and it's going to load up my inventory since I've signed in. And here you can see all my guns these are the non-sunset guns, which is set to by default. If you want to change that, you can go to your filters here, top right of your screen, and you can filter out anything. You can get rid of god rolls if you don't want to see god rolls, so you can see the crap rolls. But we want to see that, so we want god rolls in there. You can filter PvP rolls, your PvE rolls, suboptimal perk choices, etc., etc. But I'm just going to show you guys what the default is. So this just does exactly what the name suggests, is that Light GG looks into your inventory and then appraises all your guns and compares it to that of the general population of what everyone else is using and if your gun is a god roll or not. However, I wouldn't look too deeply into Light GG's appraisal system because, as I said before, god rolls are opinion based, so your definition of a god roll can be different from the universally deemed god roll. So your god roll, say like this steel feather repeater, for example, your god roll might be a feeding frenzy multi-kill clip. And yeah, like GG rates it as a C minus, but maybe this gun works out really well for you and it's your workhorse gun and it does a lot of damage and it's keeping you alive all the time. Just because light GG rates it as a C minus doesn't mean it's truly a C minus. Because for you, it works. It could be an S plus for you. This is just Light GG's way of telling you how this stacks against everyone else's perk sets for this gun. So don't get too discouraged if you think you have an awesome gun and then you go in Light GG's appraisal and you see that, oh, it's like an F or a C minus or something like that. This is just like a general way of seeing if you truly have like the best, everything, everyone's looking for this thing. Um, but I generally find when I'm going for god rolls, I sometimes have like off meta guns that typically people don't like those perks, but those perks are god rolls for me because the god roll I have, in my personal opinion god roll, let's call it that, works really well for the build that I'm using, but probably doesn't work well for everyone else's build. So that's why Light GG might think that it's like a C minus or something like that. So don't get too discouraged when you're hunting for guns to use in PvE and PvP when you see they have a poor rating on Light GG. So, in conclusion, pretty much sums up what God rolls are and how to determine God rolls and how to find them using Light GG systems. I hope this guide has helped you all. And if you have any questions, be sure to comment down below. And thanks for watching. See ya.